gather around, my friends, and let me tell you a tale. A tale of daring, of woe, of sadness, and of victory. It's some kind of order. But this is about a wonderful girl named Ori. But she was in Minecraft, and she liked to wear overalls. I don't know if that's important to the story, but anyway, let's get started. Once upon a time, there was this girl. Her name was Ori, and she was adorable and clever and fantastic. She had two best friends. They were pigs, which was so cool. One she rescued from a polar bear, and his name was Hamilton, and the other one she rescued from a butcher, and his name was Tater Tot. But they were amazing and the best of friends, and together they were just the best little happy family until one dreadful day. Some terrible bully with a heart of stone, with a soul colder than a vicious polar bear, stole sweet baby boy Hamilton. Ori was distraught. She searched everywhere. She searched all over town. She searched in the library, in the apothecary, the apiary, the barn, even the butcher. Scared and defeated, Ori decided that what she needed to do was get a bird's eye perspective. So she climbed up to the tallest point in the village, to the local copper-loving weirdo's tower. At the top, as she looked out over the edge, she heard soft little scared oinks just barely over the roaring sound of the wind whipping about. She looked around, and there he was, on the roof of the tower. Some monster, some heartless fiend trapped the sweetest Hamilton of all time on the roof in a boat. In a frenzy, Ori rushed home and she grabbed her scaffolding and scurried up as fast as she could to get her bestie. She jumped in the boat and, risking her own life and limb, she rowed the little boat off the edge and into a tiny little pond at the bottom of the tower. She made it, obviously, because she's amazing and the best at everything, except apparently knowing who to trust. So, since this was a town full of terrible monsters, she packed up her stuff and headed into the mysterious wilds to find a new home. The first biome they came across was a swamp. It was fate! What was more perfect for her little piggy family than a swamp? The harmonic singing of the frogs, the fun lily pad hopping adventures, the beautiful mangrove trees creating a magical canopy of green velvet. It was perfect, right? Well, she thought it was, until the frogs took over. They were everywhere. Ori loved frogs. She did. They're adorable and happy and hoppy, but they never stop hopping, and they leave slimy little footprints everywhere. They can get into anything and everything. Every chest, every barrel, on the roof, under the bed, outside the windows, inside the windows. She started to realize this was not the perfect paradise for her piggy family that she was hoping for. Plus, I think Tater Tot is scared of mud. What a weird pig! So, Ori packed up and they headed out. The next biome that they came across was the dark oak forest. It was shady and it was quiet, and it had plenty of cover to hide from any baddies that might want to hurt her and her little piggy family. But then she noticed that the shadows weren't always such a good idea. The shadows not only hid Ori and the pigs from the bad guys, but it gave the bad guys places to hide also. And oh boy, were there bad guys. Pillagers everywhere. Apparently, there was some wild red man with an anger complex destroying all the pillager homes, and so they had come seeking refuge and new victims in the dark oak forest. This was obviously not a place for Ori and the pigs. The desert was the next biome they found. Skeptical, they had a look. Desert sounds like a terrible place for pigs after all. It's dry and sandy and no place to hide, and wow. Maybe the perfect place to start fresh, because it's the last place that somebody's going to come looking for them. Determined to make this work, Ori got right to work, immediately designing and building a new home for Hamilton, Tater Tot, and herself. After some craftiness, she presented the new home to the boys. With piggy squeals of joy, they finally relaxed, ready to start their life in the sunny paradise. It was time for Ori and the boys, Hamilton and Tater Tot, to do some exploring and see what treasures they could find in their new desert. Not far from where they settled down, they came across an abandoned village filled with zombie villagers. Quickly dispatching the zombified monsters, Ori checked out what remained. In an old library, shoved behind some stacks of old books, Ori found a dusty, intriguing journal. The journal spoke of a mysterious stronghold that not only provided a gateway to an endless dimension, but of untold knowledge that would change the world we knew. Intrigued, Ori packed the journal away and continued searching the long-forgotten village. Finding a few treasures and the journal, Ori returned home with the piggies to think about the stronghold. By themselves, strongholds can be pretty dangerous places to venture, and with such important knowledge, this one was sure to be increasingly more difficult. Should she face it alone? Should she ask for help? Who could she trust? The only people she knew to ask, after all, were from the village that she just fled. Would it be silly to go back and tell them about this? Knowing that she still had a few friends that she could trust, Ori reached out to them, careful to not let them know too much about where she found the journal. She was joined by Van Duran, the clever and helpful sloth, and Obi-Wise, the thoughtful Jedi. Together, they set off to explore the stronghold. Besides the normal strongholdy findings, they found two mysterious libraries. The first was beautiful and overgrown, with a giant tree growing in the middle of bookcases covered by vines. In this library, they found a shrine to a book that was filled with clues regarding a power that, if harnessed with others, the world could be at peace and in harmony. Sounds pretty cool, I guess. The other library, though, was dark and musty and filled with charred remains of books due to what seemed like an explosion. Among the wreckage and the smoke, they found another shrine. This book was filled with clues alluding to the same power, urgings for a solo adventurer to control the power and rule over the world as they saw fit. Confused and overwhelmed, Ori left and returned home to her pig family to try to make sense of what this could mean. Ori decides to push the books out of her mind and work on making the desert a home. She revamped the abandoned village into a thriving market town. She built an amazing animal refuge to help protect other animals that have been threatened and were in unsafe conditions. They were definitely rescues. She definitely didn't drag them across the world from areas that may have been perfectly suited for them, just to trap them in cages and enclosures in the middle of a miserable desert. No, didn't do that. She turned a dark, stuffy cave into a beautiful underground oasis so that some sniffers could have a safe place in the desert. Yeah, they were sniffers that she hatched in the middle of a desert to start with, but that's not important. She also built an entire temple sanctuary just for pigs who faced hardships like her own family. Wanting to do more for animals seeking refuge, Ori goes out exploring further and further in the desert. One day, she comes across a desert temple. No big deal. She's explored lots of desert temples. She's a pro. She knows exactly how to safely loot them. Going to the center of the temple floor, because that's obviously the best place to dig down, she starts digging down and gets ready to dodge the pressure plate and avoid the explosions so that she can search the chest at the bottom. At least, that was the plan. Instead, she found herself plummeting far longer than expected. And when she finally hit the bottom, there was no pressure plate rigged to TNT. Instead, she was in a maze. A maze that was filled with tall, dingy stone walls. There was barely enough light to see in front of her. Since she was such an amazing and cunning hero, it only took her 3 days to escape. Just as she emerged through the stone brick opening of the maze, she realized she'd only landed herself in more trouble. Before her lay an overgrown tunnel, slightly more lit than the maze, but long and straight, and it seemed to be never ending. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was, when she stepped out of the maze, ground clicked slightly under her feet, and she heard the sound of retracting pistons. After that, she heard heavy footsteps pounding toward her, felt warm breath on the back of her neck. She took a shaky step forward and peered behind her and sees a huge, hostile Ravager beast thing towering over her, with the cute little collar and a name tag on it that read Boulder. She takes off running down the cave tunnel, Boulder barreling after her. Apparently, she's Indiana Jones now. Almost out of breath, she eyes a rickety rope bridge ahead. She musters her energy and sprints once more to reach the bridge and races across. Apparently, Boulder has a bit of a brain because he doesn't risk the rope bridge and stays on the other side, glaring menacingly. Stopping to catch her breath on the other side of the bridge, Ori takes note of her surroundings. She stands in a small cave with a simple waterfall leaking through the roof. The cave is overgrown, and the water has made a small pond in the floor. Looking up through the water, she can see the sky. It seems like all she has to do is swim up through the waterfall to escape to the surface. Just as she is about to start the ascent, something catches her eye in the back of the cave. On the back wall, behind a rock and some vines, she sees a small tunnel, only big enough to crawl through. She squeezes through and is taken aback by what she sees. A strange artifact is floating above a pedestal. The power radiating from it is intoxicating. Wanting to escape both the cave and Boulder, and willing to risk what happens, she grabs the artifact and takes off quickly up the waterfall. As her head breaks the surface of the water, Ori is overwhelmed with confusion. She starts making her way back towards the desert and towards home. As Ori arrives back home, she is greeted by Van on her doorstep. The Slothy Sloth informs her of trouble back at Spawn, and that he is calling for a meeting with everyone, cause it's super important. Since she should probably talk about the artifact thing she found anyway, Ori follows Van back to the sketchy town she left all those months ago. At Spawn Town, old and new faces meet in Town Hall as Van greets everyone. He tells us that the angry red man, Beardo Max, has stolen both of the books of power, and it could only be for nefarious reasons. Van reckons we should track down Beardo and try to stop him before things get out of control. I assume this means that he'll attempt to harness the power on his own and make us all Beardo minions or something. Red's not really Ori's color, so this seems like a terrible idea. A new face, Rich, a traveling archaeologist, offers his ship to expedite the search for Beardo, and everyone agrees to head there immediately since there's no time to waste. Because she's not the best at following directions, and also because she values her pig's safety, Ori takes a bypass and returns home to quickly collect Hamilton and Tater Tot. She plans to use a nether portal to then travel quickly to the ship to make up for lost time. She doesn't bother to empty her inventory or pick up anything extra. She just grabs the boys and leaves. This means that the mysterious artifact is still on her. At the same time Ori is picking up the boys, everyone is gathered on Rich's ship to find Beardo. Little did they know, though, that Beardo was also at the town meeting hall and eavesdropped on the entire plan. So, while the search party prepares to set sail, Beardo confronts them. He crash lands, but in like a really cool and talented crash landing, on the ship and declares to everyone that they are Muppets and no one deserves the power that the books promise. Therefore, the only rational thing to do is to destroy them. And with that, dumps lava on the ground and prepares to chunk the books in. Right as Beardo is chucking the books in, Ori, Hamilton, and Tater Tot walk through the nether portal. What was that? Was that a totem popping? What was that noise? Well, I guess we'll find out next time. Next season.